do you think Trump is ruthless?
Well, it's interesting. He's unpredictable, and I reckon, and a lot of people say this, maybe on a one-to-one basis, he might be okay. But sometimes it's a persona that you give off. It's interesting you mentioned Trump because of the latest comedy routine from, I think it's Chris Rock, is saying, we need more bullies, otherwise you end up with people like Donald Trump. But that's in humour. So it's an interesting one. Do I think he's a bully? I think that clearly the persona, the communication, the body language, what he says, the way he says it, the contradiction in politics. Sometimes you say one thing in a generation, maybe over 10 years, and suddenly you change your mind. Because it's not necessarily, I'm saying I'm a fan, I'm just saying sometimes you can be misconstrued. So
nobody
I don't
wants
really
to
know
say
what to
whether
believe.
they're a fan or a pro of Donald Trump. They don't really know what to think because of his unpredictable.
But I do think that if you go back, apparently he was quite a Democrat. He has a lot of links with the Far East as well as the Middle East. Now, is he doing that out of business, or is he doing it because he generally is a nice guy and he gets on with people? And if you look at, regardless of what people say about his business dealings, it's the definition of success. Is he successful? Right?
Well,
but is he a nice guy and successful?
He wasn't successful.
And he's written that book, hasn't he?
He was a failure, actually, and I've spent some time with...
Has he written on the back of his parents?
I've spent some time with a guy called George Ross. There is that he had, and he was actually in a lot of debt. And so George Ross, who was on The Apprentice, he was a bit like Donald Trump's right-hand man, and he helped Donald Trump with a lot of his property business, and he shared how he turned it around, which was a master negotiation. And funny enough, you talk about unpredictability. So George Ross, I'm with him. I just met him in a bar actually in Sauna. I said, do you mind if I sit next to you? He said, the thing about you, Ben, that makes you very strong towards a lot of people is you are totally unpredictable. And I think this is what Donald Trump is being with the interviews. People don't know how to take him. Which makes it very difficult for them to know how to negotiate with him. And I don't think he hasn't taken us to war yet, has he? It looks like he's been taking us to war, but was that just bravado? A bit like Saddam Hussein saying, I do have weapons of mass destruction, but he had nothing. So is it that potential threat that is causing him to be a good negotiator?
But is he doing it intentionally? I guess what is it with intent, or is it just a circumstance?
I think he would be doing it intent for the benefit, what he thinks is the benefit for America. I really do think that. So if he thinks he needs to appear to be like a bully, then to get everyone to get rid of their nuclear arms, then he will do that. Right. If he thinks that I have to be soft to get the results, then...
But it's still a high stakes, high risk situation, because somebody might go, I don't believe you, press the button.
They might do that.
So we talk about unpredictability of the people that you're dealing with.
But then he's got to be good at reading people, and I think this is a mark of a good leader, that he can read the people he's negotiating with. And that if you push them so far, then they'll do that. I want to come back to your talk about ruthlessness. So I remember somebody has been told he's a bit like Steve Jobs, and he's taken it as a compliment. But I don't think he should, because Steve Jobs was... I don't mean to say... Can I say use strong language on your videos? Because to many, he was an and that's why, the Apple board wanted him to leave. I mean, there's all sorts of stories about that. But when he came back, he was kind of a different person. And then when he had his health issue, my goodness, his speech to Stanford University is so inspirational and so motivational. He became a human being. He really started relating. And I think that was the height of his leadership, where he wasn't this ruthless person, coming back to your original point, where he wasn't that ruthless person anymore.
Maybe when you think about it from obviously the product is highly successful, it's morphed itself into many different areas, people using Apple all across the board in terms of its, the sphere that it creates in terms of the, whatever we call it, if you're an Apple person or an Android person or
Yeah.
whatever, you're part of that network. You can easily share stuff and all the rest of it. But that organisation has grown and grown and grown. That we go back to where we were before, from no computers to computers being prolific, it being pervasive, as Joanne Woodward said when she wrote about it in the 1950s, that one day computers will be pervasive in organisations because you just can't live without them. You know, when you've got a company like GSK, a pharmaceutical house, turning around saying, we're not a pharmaceutical house, we're an information company, because they need, you know, so suddenly the whole of that paradigm has actually changed.
I actually deployed Novell at GSK.
There you go. You know.
And then I had to deal with they made lots of people redundant, and then I had to educate the people in. At the time, Novell was the leading network, and I was educating them so that they could get better jobs.
Wow. Which kind of repurpose their skills.
Yeah, which I thought was very kind of GSK
Very
to
good.
spend a lot of money. You know, we were talking about probably about $1 million in education to people they were making redundant to help them get better jobs.
What I was going to say about...
And again, that's great. I think that's wonderful.
Well, companies have got pressure, and it's good if they've got social responsibility, that they want to do the right thing for an employee. I think it's a really great thing, and there's a real quality element of leadership there, which is away from ruthlessness, where we go, all right, we don't care about you, we'll fire you. That's ruthlessness. But I think there's another element of ruthlessness, which is around, look, you know, we've got to make money. We've got to get to number one. And then there's a famous book called The Cultures and Ways of Organizations, which talks about, if you are in an infrastructure which is like an Eiffel Tower, you're more like a massive organization, like a government institution. If you take one piece out, it doesn't really make a lot of difference. It does fall down a little bit, but it doesn't fall down completely. Whereas major corporations tend to be like rockets. You know, let's put as money as we can into this particular project in order to ultimately make that profit. And then along with that probably comes ruthlessness, right? Because you've got to do what you've got to do to make the buck, you know? But then does that follow back in terms of, you know, we talk about leadership and success factors, and a lot of things that you've focused in on in the businesses that you've worked with, especially whether it be in the coaching side or, you know, where you've actually helped them really get to grips with why, you know, I overheard you saying earlier on, if you don't mind me saying, do you really need that slide in there? Does it really have a purpose?
Yes.
You know, the getting away from the death by PowerPoint to the real kind of, what is the, you know, have 4 slides. Talk about the real value of what you're talking about, and let that be an aid to you rather than it being, oh no, another bullet point, which I really don't understand, but it's got some great words, you know, and it doesn't really add value to the thing, but I must have it in there because it's part of my spiel, you know. So, you know, you got that through experience. Do you
That's
think,
through my running a media company.
Yeah, through the
actually several media companies.
How to say things properly,
how
to say things with meaning. But it also, I think, comes from your extensive business experience. So whether or not you're frying samosas, right, and putting them in packaging and selling them to Marks and Spencer.
I do like a good samosa.
I'm not saying that you're doing that, or whether you're running the railways, there are generic business skills, aren't there, that apply, whether it be operationally.
There are very generic, and the number one thing, and coming back to your point about businesses, they're there to make money. And if you don't understand cash flow, you literally should not be in business. And this is another reason why I think when you're starting out on an entrepreneurial world, and if you want to be a leader, please understand cash flow. And this is why, again, if somebody is powering you, either you're living in your parents' home or a spouse is supporting you, while you're delivering your passion, learn about cash flow, learn how to conserve money, learn how to invest it, learn how to make it, learn the areas of your business to reinvest in. And the great problems with the 2000 .com boom and bust was people thought, if you look good, if you drive in flash cars, then people will do business with you. And
people weren't investing operationally.
They didn't,
infrastructure-wise.
Correct. They didn't. They were investing in branding, really. And that's why so many businesses went out of business. The number one, if people Google what the number one reason for business failure is, it's cash flow. And the number one. And so back to whether you're ruthless by going after the finance, I don't think you are. I don't think that's ruthless. I think you're in business to make money.
I think maybe the word is that you've got to be thorough. right? And you got to make sure that no one's, you know, you got to monitor it. You got to
monetize it. Yeah.
You got to monitor it, and if you can monetize, you know, they say money makes money, but money only makes money if you're smart about it, not if you're just going to go, oh, I'll put it in that, and not do the due diligence to actually understand what the implication of that is. But that intelligence, and I really think the point you've made is excellent, that know your numbers, right? Even when you're doing a project, know your numbers, because you run out of cash, you can't pay the person who's going to do the project for you. But more importantly, on a roll-up basis, how much money have I got coming up so that I can invest in this, and I've only got this much left to do on the project, so but they're actually out of balance, you know. And I think it's important to be clear about the status of that cash, you know.
The challenge with people, if they've got a full-time job and doing a business in the evening, is they will have to make sacrifices in their relationships. And this is why we also say to a lot of people that if you want to start a business, do it while you're young, do it while you aren't in a relationship or with somebody, and don't have kids, because you will have to make a lot of sacrifice to do your business, and later on you can get the nice social life that you might enjoy. So it's
almost like being ruthless with yourself, aren't you?
You have, well, we call that disciplined, rather being. But I guess these words, you know, I've got a new TED talk. I've just finished a TED talk in March on how to attract and the right people in your life, and the next one is on cowardice. And being a coward, and I think this word cowardice has been used in a negative way too much, because I think cowardice actually saves people's lives. So I'll be doing a talk on cowardice, courage, and what I call extreme reading, which is just reading aloud in public, where there are a lot of people, for 5 minutes. Can't read anything political, can't read anything religious, because that's that you're deliberately getting out.
Would you deliver that reading with meaning and expression and all the great things, or would you just be bland and just, you know? You
would learn how to cause engagement. So today I can read the telephone directory and get a lot of great engagement. I've got videos of me on aeroplanes, wherever, just standing up. No, I haven't asked for permission, and I did that actually to deal with something that, again, I think a lot of leaders have, and that's they've got just a confidence. They don't care what people think about them. You know, if we look at Zuckerberg's Facebook, people would have laughed at him, and there was just no way he could be number one, because MySpace used to dominate the social media.
It's not like it was something new, was it? It was just a different way of having a timeline.
His sister, Randy Zuckerberg, actually, she was a digital marketeer, and I don't think without her, they would have been able to. He asked her to give up a very highly paid job in New York to come and work in the basement of their home to do this, and she thought she was only going to help him for a few months. But yeah, without that aspect of the Facebook would, I think, be nowhere, and this is not mentioned in the film at all.
Well, the film is based on an interpretation of interviews and stuff. Tell us a little bit about, I mean, there's a publication that you recently appeared in, you've written a load of books, you spend your time now guiding other people, you have still got your businesses of your own. I was quite impressed that people just go, you know, thanks so much for your help, here's a bit of my business, you know, in terms of, like, you know, they give you not only pay for you turning up, but they actually say, well, could you actually carry on helping us out, and we'll give you a slice of the business. That's a wonderful position to be in terms of their confidence in you, and the fact that whatever you're saying to them is actually working. So that you have other businesses where you get other people to help, so for example, you'll coach them in writing, or even in areas where they're doing property development, or even in healthcare. You still have interests in those areas, don't you?
So,
should I mean the other way of asking the question is, how do you spend your time?
How do I spend my time? I actually spend a lot of time watching superhero films. I have this big, massive comic book collection of probably about 20,000 comics.
I wish I'd kept my original Avengers volume.
I've still got still got number one issues.
Yeah, I have number one issues somewhere in the attic. I don't know where it is though. Yeah.
My friend and I we used to go to these, like, in a country called Singapore, and we used to go to these places, and somehow he found the first ever Spider-Man comic.
Wow.
Which he let me. He gave it to me, and I gave it.
You must love the fact that Stan Lee is kind of does the cameo roles.
I love it. I love it.
I know that guy.
I'd love to be Stan Lee.
Yeah.
That's probably my next thing. I keep saying I want to be an actor, but I haven't done two auditions and things. So I'm thinking, how much do I really want it? It's an interesting journey.
It's an interesting life at the moment.
An interesting life. So I made some mistakes on my journey, as we all do, and the most number of businesses I could ever run was I got to 5, and then I've been hospitalized from overworking, and so the most I could company run is 3, and I was trying to work out, how can people like Richard Branson can have hundreds and hundreds of businesses. Now, remember, if I can just go rewind back, and I said I was bullied a lot. So for the first decade, I needed to rebuild myself. I need to find ways to make money, and I thought I'd like to be retired, whatever this word retirement means, by mid-30s. And so my goal was to make £1 million. And if you make that money, then you can't just stop making the money. So there wasn't a concept called passive income at the time. But I thought, how can I just keep getting on more money by whatever I did? So property was one of them, through rental. Writing books through royalty was another
very
one.
Nice. Yeah, pretty good.
Being in films, because my great grand uncle and aunt, they were equity members, and they used to get me into television shows and so on.
Brilliant.
And then every time it was repeated, there would be a check come through my door, or they used to outsource it to Australia or wherever it is. I get another check through my door.
Fantastic stuff.
So I learnt about passive income. I was bad at trading, and I was bad at network marketing, because I was too invested in the success of people in my group, and so that would hurt me. But I was good at media writing, and I was good at property. The mistake I made is I could only ever run 3 businesses, and what I realized is you make more money in businesses than any of these things. So how did Branson do it? He has teams, and he would give away more of the equity. So he doesn't have like 100% in every business. He gave it to the people that were running those businesses. So there's a concept called an intrapreneur, and this is a great leader who can motivate the people inside the business and be creative inside the business. It's better to have 5 and 10% of lots of successful businesses, or get businesses that aren't doing very well, they're ailing, but you can spend some time coaching them, and if they give you some percentage in the business, how wonderful, because now you're getting another set of passive income. And so that really is the journey I'm on. Now, the people that I've helped, I've actually done, I didn't charge for coaching, I didn't charge, and they saw the value in it. In fact, this book, Social Magnetism, talks about adding value to people before you even ask for any money, before you even say this is a business. You see, nobody knows you. You could have been on a show, whatever, but nobody really knows you until your business, as a business person, until you're adding so much value that people are talking about you. If you look at a lot of the Microsoft products, they actually give it away in the operating system. And this is coming back to all our discussion is so circular. You talk about ruthlessness. Netscape was the leading browser of the time, and Microsoft just gave it away. They gave it away as part of their operating.
Anti-trusting that happened afterwards. With
yes,
that,
that's right.
You know, with the fact that why is it in every single box when I open it up? It's got IE on the desktop. You know.
Yeah, their browser. So were they a bully? Were they being ruthless, or were they enabling customers to have an internet browser without having to pay extra money? I don't want to get into the semantics. Some, depending on which side of the if you were at Netscape, you would have felt they were a bully. You would have felt they were being ruthless. But remember, Gates' vision was to give everybody was able to afford computing power on any device, anywhere, anytime.
Power at your fingertips, yeah.
That's their latest branding, but his original branding was anywhere, anytime, on any device. So there are even photocopiers with Windows on it.
It's true, there are.
And I think he would have wanted it on the washing machine.
They had it in phones originally, didn't they? Yeah.
Well, they still do on the Windows phone. Yeah. So that was his. So I don't know whether they were being ruthless or not. They were just trying to give more value, and that's what we talk about in this particular book, Social Magnetism. The power of adding value to people, and how that in the long term, which has helped me a lot, really grow you as a person. So you're not being ruthless by adding value. And in this book, we talk about adding value without wanting anything in return. You see, karma, people think that if somebody...
It's like a selfless thing, isn't it?
It has to be selfless. People think, if I'm nice to you, then you're nice to me. That's karma. That's not karma. That's a business deal. You know, if I'm going to give you value, that's a business deal. So this is why a lot of time when people are saying, I want to give you value, I'm thinking, no, you're after business. I don't want the value you're giving me, because you're after something at the end of the
discussion or whatever it is.
The relationship,
absolutely.
And then you're going to get angry with me, and then you're going to write up terrible stuff about me because you think I took advantage of you.
Yeah. So I think what you're saying is be more of a giver, right? And don't necessarily expect things in return, and hopefully they're the honourable side of it, the other individual, and the discussion will bring about a return, but don't have any expectations.
Don't have any expectations. And in fact, I think true karma is you never actually get anything back from the people you gave something to. Right. It comes from totally unexpected areas.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. I mean, if you spent your entire life thinking that someone owes you a favour, you know, you're going to hold a grudge, aren't you?
You are. You really are going to, oh yeah, I did that for them and they never give anything back to me.
So, it was so wonderful to meet you. I know we discussed a whole load of areas.
I don't think even we've gone deep. I was expecting you to take me really deep because you know, the whole thing about Steve Jobs as well is just I just think he became a more effective leader. He was a lot more humble when he came back to Apple, and when he had his well, it did eventually.
It did eventually. I think he got a bit better, and then he got worse. I mean, I think there are certain learnings that, you know, from this discussion, there's some incredible insights that you've given. You know, firstly, the importance of knowing your numbers. You know, being a good business person. You know, don't just give everything up. You have to run things in parallel for a while. We discussed ruthlessness at quite a large scale, but obviously there are different elements to that too. Importance of I like the idea of karma. You know, you've obviously got loads of experience of having worked for different people, different organisations. Don't have any expectations. Be more of a giver. That's a lovely sentiment to continue with as a kind of a life goal, really. Interesting the point you made about maybe at the time there wasn't necessarily the passive or the what they call reciprocal income. You know, I'll do this because it will keep giving me a check. You know, the royalties or whatever. But it's good. I think those models are quite good. Nowadays they seem to be better, don't they? You can have a book which hopefully will sell more, which can complement other products.
I'm not sure books sell that much.
Yeah,
these
what
days,
I mean is other things that can help. You know?
But what this book has done, so in fact, people buy it, the money actually goes to charity. But it actually has pushed me forward in different areas from a branding perspective. To give workshops which are paid for workshops, to give certain kinds of talks, which people will pay me for.
With-
So
with
I'm not
head
so.
stuff, yeah, that's good.
The days when I was in media and the amount you made through traditional media, I think has evolved to a different model where you can make money. Just this one last thing on giving, you need to know when to walk away. So it's okay to say be a giver, but some people will abuse your time, and you need to learn. Look, there's only so far I can take you. I actually have my own life to live, and you're phoning me up every single day for the last 3 or 4 hours. You need to help people to grow up and to do their own Googling and then come back with solutions. This is how I grew my own children. My daughter says this, that she said, growing up, I hated my dad because, I'd come with him a problem and he'd say, okay, you fix the problem and don't fix the problem. Come back to me with 3 solutions and I'll tell you which one is right. But she said, today, it's really helped me because I don't try and just suck people dry. We call them vampires and black holes and so on.
Oh, exactly.
So just be careful about the giving. I think it's important, and in the book we also talk about there are times you just need to walk away.
Absolutely. So unfortunately and sadly, you didn't prime me up for that one. We have to walk away from this interview, but
I love to prime you.
Prime. Thank you for that. You could be my, what do they call it?
Your muse.
That's the one. It's been really great meeting you, Ben. So much.
Thank you.
Great insights.
Thank you, Dr.
so much.
Savi. I appreciate it.
And we're going to share this on various outlets. I think if you want to take a look at the book, try and understand some of the great insights and experience that comes about from it, I think you'll be better for it. So until we see you next time round, thanks a lot for tuning in to SaviLeaders, and have a great week, month, year, and whatever you're planning to do.